Hello, welcome to Closing the Gap on Distance Learning, sponsored by the newly launched Faith Out Loud Foundation. I said sponsored by the newly launched Faith Out Loud Foundation. This foundation is a nonprofit organization that serves the needs of the inner city communities by addressing barriers that interfere with individual and community success. Faith Out Loud Foundation does not operate in a vacuum. It operates by partnering with nonprofits, businesses, community organizations, and individuals to identify and respond to the needs of the community and distribute tangible resources. Faith Out Loud Foundation is not just talking the talk, but they're walking the walk. While the foundation is new, Faith Out Loud as a movement and a way of life is not. Dale Anthony, who was moved by a sermon preached by his brother in Christ, Zach Carey, Dale took that sermon and he applied it to his daily life. He made it his own, creating and releasing his first album, Faith Out Loud, in 2012. Dale was not satisfied alone with creating life-changing music. And when I say life-changing music, I mean that. Faith Out Loud music is off the hook. If you haven't heard it, you are missing out, but don't worry, we're going to let you know how you can learn more about Faith Out Loud music. But Dale Anthony, he wanted to directly serve the community, which gave birth to Faith Out Loud Fridays. In an effort to promote acts of kindness and selflessness throughout our communities, every first Friday of the month, Faith Out Loud would take to the streets of poverty-stricken neighborhoods to perform a random act of love and support for those in need of tangible goods or services. In addition, Faith Out Loud Friday would promote the need for believers and non-believers, right? Faith Out Loud Foundation and Faith Out Loud Fridays does not discriminate. To look outside of their own bubble, recognize the needs of others, and search for ways to meet those needs with no exception of return or reward. Right there, you should just pause and just hit the like button right there, hit the love button right there, because that's some good news that we need to share, right? That's not the news that's being covered when you turn on Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, but this is some good news that we're talking about right here. So I want to give it up for Dale Anthony and Faith Out Loud and all the great work that they're doing. And I don't want you to take my word for it. Right now, I want you to take a moment to see Faith Out Loud in action. Take a look how they're living their faith out loud.
Let's take a look back at the past 11 editions and see how we've been getting active in our community. Wherever you are, follow me. I can, I will, I shall, I still make your praises heard. That's what you deserve. I can, I will, I shall, I still make your praises loud. That's what I'm about. I can, I will, I shall, I still make your praises heard. That's what you deserve. You say I can.
Hey, that's my jam right there. Praises heard. Make your praises heard. That's just a little bit of what Faith Out Loud is about. And I just want to pause for a moment. Let's take a share break. Everybody right now, we want to make sure that we let the world know what's happening this evening. There's a lot of good information that's coming up, and we want to make sure that as many people as possible could get an opportunity to experience this. So right now, take a moment. I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to go to Facebook right now. I'm going to go to the Dale Anthony page. And can we go ahead and put that at the bottom there so people know exactly how they should share it? All right, so I went to Dale Anthony page. It says live, right? Boom, that's me right there, speaking live to you. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit share so everyone I know can jump in on this conversation, because we have some great information coming up. Also, for more information about the foundation, you can visit daleanthonymusic.com/FOLF. Boom, right there at the bottom. Look at it again, daleanthonymusic.com/FOLF. Great. So let's get to the task at hand, and that's to talk about education. Education during a pandemic, distance learning, remote learning. There's many names for it, but we know it's not easy. But don't worry, we got some help. Somebody say, thank God for some help. Some help is coming. So the last couple of months, Since school has been back in, a lot of parents, students, and teachers have struggled with adjusting to this new form of learning, myself included. I'm your moderator tonight, Nathalio Gray. I'm a high school administrator, I'm a father, and I'm a husband, and I'm also here because I need some help. For the next hour or so, we'll try to tackle a few of these challenges. We've surveyed a number of families, including single-parent households, two-parent households, homes with 1 to 2 children, homes with 4 or more children. So we have some information for you. The responses were varied, and there were a few challenges that were consistent across the board. Focus, time management, and socialization. I know the list could be much longer than that, but those 3 things that we saw pretty consistent throughout all the surveys. So tonight we brought in some well-informed professionals. I am really excited about the panel that we have this evening. These folks know what they're doing, and they are making a difference in the world of education, mental health, and within their families. So they're going to help us tackle some of these challenges tonight. So I want to take a moment to introduce our speakers and let them share a little bit of information so you can get to know them a little bit better. So the first speaker that I would like to introduce is Tim Mays, who is the Assistant Director of Black Student Success at Northeastern Illinois University. Welcome to the panel, Brother Mays.
Peace and blessings. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Glad to be a part of the panel. As it was mentioned, my name is Tim Mays. I'm an Assistant Director for Black Student Success at Northeastern Illinois University. And my work is largely focused around researching the exoticism and disposability of Black bodies through a lens of social justice education as a way for us to engage our young Black students and help them matriculate from the various different levels. As I mentioned before, I work in higher education, so really just looking at the ways in which we can help our students get the necessary resources that they need in order to be successful and obtain their career and academic goals. So thank you for having me. I'm glad to be a part.
It's great, man. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for making some time to help us out this evening.
Absolutely.
Next, we have Dr. Akilah Moore, educator, teacher, and adjunct professor. Dr. Moore, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm also happy to be a part and excited about this evening. I am originally from Oakland, California, and recently relocated to Georgia, North Atlanta area.
ATL's in the house.
ATL. I attended Spelman College and Howard University, HBCU, love. My background is mathematics. I got my doctorate in ed leadership at St. Mary's College in California. My background is community college. I was there teaching for 12 years before I moved into administration, became the Dean of Math and Sciences. So really a big proponent for STEM and helping Black and Brown students pursue STEM careers. In Georgia, still in education, and I've started a business, a consulting business for education, kind of helping families navigate the education system, and also with a focus on tutoring in the STEM field. So very happy to be here tonight.
Whew. Math was my toughest subject growing up. I needed an educator like you to help me out. So I'm glad that you're here helping us and making moves in your industry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to the panel. Next, we have Dr. Alexis White, clinical psychologist and therapist. Dr. White, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation this evening. Like you said, my name is Dr. Alexis White, and I currently reside in Los Angeles, California. I was born in North Carolina, and my background is in clinical psychology. So I have my doctorate in clinical psychology, and my undergraduate degree is also in psychology. I'm really, really passionate about mental health, so that'll be my role in the conversation tonight. I enjoy discussing relationships, boundaries, cultural competency, as well as Black and Brown bodies in clinical research as it relates to the central nervous system. And so I'm just happy to be here.
Great. Well, thank you for making time for us. Thank you for being on the panel. Next, we have Christina Jackson, STEM curriculum developer and project manager, Twig education coach, and most importantly, mother of 5. Welcome, Christina. hit the unmute button
Got
for it.
it, because I don't do this for a living. No, I do. I should do better. Thank you for having me. I'm Christina. I am, like you said, a mother of 5. I have 4 boys, 1 girl. My boys are 14, 8, 6, and 4, and then my baby girl's 14 months. I graduated from Xavier University in New Orleans, also an HBCU, and with my degree in chemistry. So after that, I spent some time working for the United States Food and Drug Administration, and then I became a high school chemistry teacher. And so since leaving the classroom, I started to develop curriculum. So I have written courses in the STEM field. I was the STEM curriculum development manager for an online publishing company. And now I am a freelancer. So I still work in that field. I still build curriculum, but just on my own time. And then I am also a new homeschooling mom. So I have experience on both sides, virtual learning, and then now transitioning into homeschool. And so I hope to give parents just some really like tips and lessons learned and things that I'm still learning around just everything that it means to be a working parent with kids and now being a working homeschooling parent. Lots of moving parts. So thanks for having me.
Right on. So you created your own classroom at home. Full crew there. No one's going to accuse you of being bored, right?
Right.
Well, I'm so happy to be here with you all. I've been in education for 20 years myself. Currently high school administrator, director of admissions at the Branson School in Marin County, as well as a minister at True Vine Ministries. And I'm a father of a 6th grade boy and a TK. So we keep our hands full at home as well. And, 2020 has not been easy, but as we said, we have some help on the way, and this is a very well-informed panel, so I'm excited to jump right in. Now, I know some people were listening in the beginning when I said share. You were just taking a moment. You were sitting there thinking like, okay, well, let me see what they're going to be talking about first. Okay, now that you see we got some heavy hitters, Faith Out Loud Foundation is not messing around. We have some heavy hitters on the panel, so why don't you just take a moment and go ahead and share the information right now from the Del Anthony page. On Facebook, also on YouTube. And if you have questions throughout this conversation, go ahead and put your questions in. And then towards the end of the conversation, we'll be answering some of those questions. Focus, time management, and socialization. So let's start with you, Tim. What are some of the ways to keep children focused on Zooms, assignments, and homework? What are some ways that we can keep our children focused on Zooms, their assignments, and homework? It's a lot coming at them.
Yeah, sure. Right. And so I think one of the main things that is super important is being able to find a designated space for your student to be able to work if possible. I know a lot of times when you're working at home, right, there's a lot of different folks in the house. If you have multiple children, potentially they all could be working at the same time and attempting to share the same space. And so if there's a way to potentially like designate a particular space for the students to be able to do their work, preferably a space where there aren't a lot of doors opening and closing, because that could be a super huge distraction and cause the student to kind of, change and shift their focus. Also just having a space, again, a designated space where the students are keeping their assignments. So generally, if you have younger children and they're in elementary or middle school, sometimes they often have like a cubby hole or a basket or a space where they put their assignments. So kind of modeling that same kind of behavior at home if possible. So that way you don't have to like go find an assignment in the bathroom and then go find another one in the kitchen and then go find another one in the garage. You kind of have a designated space again for them to be able to focus on their work. Another thing that I kind of been seeing and, I've kind of been hearing from my siblings is, one of the things that's kind of important, again, for students is being able to have a space where you can kind of move a little bit. The traditional model of sit down and do this work for the next 2 or 3 hours sometimes isn't feasible and doesn't work, but finding ways to incorporate movement. So even if that means just not having the student sit in the chair, but being able to put their laptop up on a desk or up on a counter, just so they can kind of stand up and get their blood flowing. it's just another way to kind of get them in the space of, really being focused and honed in on what it is that they're looking at and working on.
Yeah, that's super important to keep that blood flowing.
Yeah.
Sometimes when my son, when he gets a break and he comes out, he just, want to sit down for a moment, I'll say, hey man, pick up that jump rope and have him do some jump rope and just get that blood circulating, right?
Yeah.
To kind of, get the angst out.
Yeah.
Any other panelists want to jump in and add anything else to that? All right, I think Tim covered it there. Christina?
Mm-hmm. I was considering it.
I saw you take off the mute, so I saw you going in.
I think to kind of speak to in terms of that, I want to say the space and the movement and all of that is something that actually just came up. I think that in general, right, when we think of classrooms, we do think of kids sitting down. We do think of those things. And we're starting to see, I know I have a child who exhibits a lot of ADHD behaviors. We're in the process of going through and getting evaluations and seeing kind of where we stand. And I think a lot of families who have kids like that are seeing some of the behaviors that they exhibit in school and are not necessarily trained, right, to handle those behaviors while their kids are learning at home. And so one of the things that I have looked at and my husband has looked at is like really answering the question. And I was going to mention this later too, but like, what must happen right now and what could happen or couldn't happen? Like, where are the non-negotiables? So like if a child chooses to stand and fiddle while, I don't know, reciting something, and you would prefer for your child to sit down, is that something that must happen, or could it happen a different way and still be okay? And I think that that's really kind of a guiding question for myself as a parent in this space of really always evaluating, like, where is my must?
Right. And
I'll do those. And if there's not a must, it's okay, and I think it's something that's, just really important, especially when it comes to the littles. High schoolers are a little different. I have one of those, but the littles for sure, they need a lot of flexibility. And so it's a learning curve on our part because we have the things that we do, but our tiny humans have the things that they do. And what they do is fine. And what we do is fine. Yeah.
That's super important, Christina. And also hear you reminding us who are parents that we're not parents all day long, that because we're at home with our children during the pandemic, we also have to kind of shift and put on that educator role. Mm-hmm. So whereas as a parent, I might just say, you better do this and do it just the way I said so. But that's not what they're accustomed to when they're in school, right? So in order to get the most out of them, for them that present their best selves, we might have to be a little bit more sensitive or have a different approach, meet them where they are, right? As you said, what are the negotiables? What are the non-negotiables? I like that.
I was just going to add something else real quick. I don't want to take up too much space, but I think the other thing, just kind of, going off of what Christina was sharing, right? It was kind of hitting on also just kind of being aware of what your child's learning style might potentially be. There are various tests that you could take, particularly focused around different learning styles. But I think that's kind of the advantage that parents have that teachers might not be aware of, right? Is you kind of know what things your child gravitates to, right? If your child is one of those children who gravitates really quickly to like learning lyrics of a song, then maybe like incorporating some of that into like the learning process for your child, right? If your child is someone who can like touch something and put it together really quickly, or they need to touch something in order to understand it better, using those processes as a part of their educational experience, because for them sitting down and just opening up a book and copying things down might not be the way that they engage and the way that they learn. So just picking up on those nuanced things that you often see as a parent might be helpful with the process too.
So already just a few minutes in, and that's a lot of information coming at us already. And sometimes you're thinking like, there's so many tips and pointers and things I need to be considering. I just don't have enough hours in the day. Dr. Moore, help us with time management, right? How do we balance the time between our work schedules and our child's school schedule? Help us out here.
Okay, so for me, it's all about like organizing. And the more you might have to put in a lot of work up front to get organized and to get your schedule in order, but it pays off like tremendously later. So, and the age difference kind of matters you know, how much you have to kind of guide your children. But even if you spend a couple hours on a weekend and just organize your day, organize how the day and how the week needs to flow, matching and coordinating with your work schedules. I know some parents are at home working, some parents are out of the home working. And so there's lots of different tips of, you know, kind of scheduling the check-ins that you can do with your kids at certain times when they have breaks or in between, depending on, you know, the age group. But the key to me is kind of the upfront planning. So for me and my family, one thing that works, and also for the kids that I consult and the families that I consult, is you need to spend some time writing down your schedule. And I mean detailed, like, what are you going to do from this hour to this hour? And the older the kids are, they can be more kind of hands-on in this process. For younger kids, maybe with some colors and some art, you want to get them involved in it so that they can really take ownership of it. But you need to be part of it because, you know, they're calling on us during this time to help us. If we're at work, you may be getting texts or phone calls. For younger kids, I can't get on this, or I need help with this. You know, so you need to establish like a schedule of when is a good time for me to have a break where I can check in with my child, you know, and make sure everything is on the up and up. Or, you know, I think it's just a matter of planning, and it makes everything go, you know, a lot smoother. Another thing, you know, kind of just, there's one of the things that I hear is that there's so many different platforms that the kids are being asked to go to when they're, you know, remote learning. I got to go to this site for this and this site for that. And the more you understand that, the more you can help your kids. So for me, it was taking a couple hours to sit down and for, you know, for this platform. So communicating with the teacher, with the educator, and finding out, you know, what their responsibilities are, and then helping them kind of plan that so that their day goes smoother and yours goes smoother. But it takes a lot of coordination up front. And once you have kind of the flow going, then everything becomes easier. And then also just Timothy was alluding to it, just being flexible. I would stick to a schedule for a period of time and, you know, give it time to kind of get the kinks out, and then adjust if you need to adjust, reassess, see what needs to change. This is not working. This is not working. So let's try this instead. So you have to be flexible because this is all new for everybody.
Yeah, these are some great ideas coming in here.
For it, then, you know, it just makes everything harder. So for me, it's like the upfront planning. Put in the time to do the upfront planning, and it makes everything go a lot smoother.
And this is interesting because this is really a time where we're having an opportunity to learn and lean in with our children, with our students, right? Because some of these things that you have just mentioned might not be first nature for some of us. Right. Some of us might not be the type of folks to plan out every moment of the day, but now all of a sudden you're responsible for some other people throughout the course of the day at home, and it needs to be structured. So like, have that conversation with your child and let them know that, you know, things are different right now. Right. And we're going to lean into this together, and don't put so much pressure on yourself that you feel like you have to be the expert. Right. I think a lot of times we do that as educators or as parents, feeling like, you know, we have to present it perfectly. As you said, it's okay to like assess, start over, and say, you know what, that's not working. We're going to do something different. Right. Any other panelists want to say anything about this topic?
So I 100% agree. One of the primary things I've been encouraging my parents around is releasing perfection, because this is an opportunity for you to model for your children what it looks like in the real world to deal with not being perfect. And so there's a nuance to what's happening right now in the world. As tough as it is, you're having an opportunity to teach your children some soft skills and some other skills that they may not have acquired in school. Release perfection.
Can I add a tip that I for now, what I've started doing recently is I was noticing some of that with myself, the perfectionism, of course, and with my kids. So now I found a list, I want to say, of about 100 different affirmations. Some of them are simple, like I am enough. I believe in my dreams and goals. It's okay not to know everything. Today, I'm going to choose to think positive. And so I choose 3 of them a week, and I have it printed on their daily little journal that they do. And we say it every single day. And it's not just a reminder for them, it's also for me. I don't know if anyone has ever kind of looked into something called growth mindset, but this is a really good time for all of us to get into that space of really having a growth mindset and teaching that to our children and applying it, to ourselves. And in terms of just finding something to be grateful for, it took me a minute, but I finally got to this place where if you remember, when any of your children were babies and you kind of waited for them to take a first step, or you waited for them to, say something for the first time, or whatever, all these firsts, we are getting an opportunity to see so many firsts with our kids. It's something, honestly, that I loved as a classroom teacher, was that aha moment with other people's children. And now I get aha moments with my own kids. And so I think that that's one thing that, even if I'm not perfect, all of those things, I try to grab onto those moments where my child did not know how to read a word yesterday and he knows how to read today. And it's like, wow, like I saw that happen.
Right.
A lot of the learning and the things and the ways in which our kids are growing, we don't normally see because they're away from us all day. But now we get the other stuff, but we also get a chance to be a part of the firsts again for as long as we have. Doesn't mean it's easy, but there is a little something to grab onto when it's rough, I guess, is what I want to say. Yeah.
Right. And also, just an important reminder for all of you listening right now, feel free to contribute to the conversation and share any of your own tips in the chat. This is a village. Let's all learn together and with each other. In terms of leaning in and growth mindset, this was new for many of us who are now presenting. Right. We went from presenting to live audiences, having the eye contact, being able to interact with the audience, to now it's just us few folks on the who are on this panel, and we're looking at a screen and we can't see all the lovely faces out there of you smiling and nodding your head. So since we can't see you nodding your head and agreeing with this, or if you like frowning up like, wait a minute, I didn't understand that, we want you to talk back to us. So make sure you put some information in the chat so we know you're out there. One more thing for you, Dr. Moore, when you're talking about the schedule, right? What should be happening at night with this schedule, right? Because I know since many students are learning from home and there's not a commute in the morning, or there's not the rush to get out the door. Sometimes folks, we can get a little bit lax. What do you think? Bedtime schedule, what should we be doing there?
I think that, you have to be flexible, but this is still like a learning day. So if your kids, like my younger kids, they don't get cell phones during the week. They don't watch TV during the week. And just because you're home, our rules still apply. So we kind of keep the same schedule that we would as if school was in session. The thing that I found, though, is that after being on the computer all day, it seems like it's different, even though it's not, because before they were in school all day and then they came home and they had homework, but maybe it's just being in the same space makes it feel like, oh, you just been on the computer doing work like all day. So at night when she has homework, I'm kind of like, man, this is enough. You've been, on the computer all day. So working in some time to go outside, to exercise, to do some things in between, Christina is saying, like, you find good moments. So we're able to cook together now. And before I was like coming home, rushing, making dinner, and then, getting them ready for bed. And now she can take some time and kind of debrief her day and relax. And we're in the kitchen and just doing stuff together before, oh, Mom, I may need some help with my math homework. So still kind of routine for us, but then, taking it in stride, because it's different for them to be on the computer. They're not moving, just little things, like they're not getting up in between classes and walking through the hallway and going to the lunchroom and kind of letting their hair down. They're in the house. And so it's all about being flexible, but still having a schedule, because otherwise, it gets crazy if you don't. For me, it does.
No, good. That's really important. And I brought that up because, if they're staying up, till wee hours in the morning, at some point that's going to catch up with them. They're not going to be their best, looking at a screen all day. And at some point, this pandemic will end. And at some point, different schools will find ways to bring students back to campus. The high school I work at Branson, we're in our second week now at 100% having all students back on campus. So when the call is made for students to return, you don't want your student have to have this long ramp up because they've been staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Have some boundaries around bedtime, and also it helps with the mental aspect for our own, mental state. Which brings me to Dr. White. Talk to us, help us out with maintaining mental stability through shelter in place. How do we maintain our mental stability while sheltering in place?
So first things first, I think it's really important to normalize and recognize that as humans, this is a collective experience right now. And in psychology, we talk about this thing called ambiguous loss. And so all of us are experiencing ambiguous loss right now, which is a loss in the way that you used to live. So the way that we did before this pandemic, it's gone. And not only are our parents experiencing that, but the children are experiencing that too. The way that they live, like Dr. Moore just described, you're not walking down the hallways, you're not seeing your friends. There's a loss in the way that we live life. And so as a result of that, there is stress, there is anxiety, there is hopelessness. There are moments where I'm sure, you feel like, I cannot believe this is happening. When are we going to be done with this? And also feeling like there's prolonged uncertainty. And I'm sure, as parents, you hear when are we going back to school? When am I going to see my friends? And not having those answers creates anxiety. Uncertainty for all of us creates anxiety. And so recognizing that the way you're feeling, what you're experiencing, is not abnormal. It's a loss. It's a real loss. Also, boundaries, which Christina and Dr. Moore were talking about, they're enmeshed right now. So boundaries between work, school, home, it used to be clear-cut lines. Now they're all merging together. And so just recognizing that that's going to cause a certain level of reactivity. Anytime our boundaries are crossed, it causes something inside of us to feel reactive. And so if you're having feelings where this is so stressful, I'm feeling so anxious, or I'm feeling sad or down, or whatever you may be experiencing right now, it sounds like you're human to me. That's what I've been telling, my patients, friends, family. You sound like a human. This is not abnormal. But with that, some of the things that you guys have been saying are great. We've got to move. I call it move, walk, talk, with your kids. It's great for you. It's great for them. Not only does it decrease stress, but it also boosts your immune system, which is really important for all of us right now. Also, that time, Nathalia, that you were talking about, having that little bit of time for yourself is really important. Right. And I know a lot of times
hold on, Dr. White, say it again.
That time for yourself is really, really important. And I know as parents, you want to knock it out of the park. You want to kill it. You want your kids to excel. You want to be the best parent you can be. But I'm always telling my parents, listen, in order to be the best parent that you can be for your children, you got to take care of yourself. So that's you getting sleep. That's you getting something to eat. That's you having a little bit of time to watch a show or talk to a friend and connect. I know we're tired of technology, right? We're always on Zoom, y'all. So you want to throw the iPad, the laptop away. But, that FaceTime with a friend, or family member, you need that. That's a part of health and wellness. And so make sure you take that time for yourself, and consider your your kids need that too. So they need a moment to FaceTime that friend, or to, talk to someone, or maybe to talk to you, to get outside and play. Dr. Moore, like you were saying, these things are really important in helping us maintain our mental stability.
All right, that's good. That's good. Any other panelists want to chime in here? Important. Dr. White, also, can you say a little bit about the social dynamic between parent and child while distance learning, right? Because I think that relationship might look differently from how, pre-pandemic, during pandemic. Definitely.
And even what Christina was describing about just trying to, make sure that you're getting these things done. And now you're in the position of not only being mom or dad, now you're a teacher too. which is really, really stressful. So there are a couple of things that I like for my parents to keep in mind. And you guys mentioned it already. So you don't have to replicate the in-school experience because they're not inside of the school right now. So try to reframe your thinking around this opportunity for learning and experiences in different ways, right? So Dr. Moore's having an opportunity to cook in the kitchen. You know, Christina, you're talking about the things that you're getting to see first. These are learning experiences as well. So a lot of times in school, we focus on, you know, your math, your science, but there are some very valuable skills that come in the interpersonal relationship that you have with your children. So you're teaching them emotional intelligence. You're teaching them how to manage disappointment, because we've all had it right now, right? You're showing and modeling those things for them. You're showing them how to resolve conflict, okay, between maybe you and a friend or a parent, or even with the technology, right? That's frustrating that you're using. And okay, it's not working now. How do you handle that and navigate that when something isn't working or it's not going your way? And so there's some amazing skills that you guys are teaching your children that you don't even realize day in and day out. They don't have anything to do with mathematics or science, but they're really important life skills. And also make sure you're reaching out and you find some support, whether it's, you know, with friends, family members, other parents, where you could communicate some of your frustrations. Those things are really important in continuing to have a great relationship with your child. One other thing I would encourage you to do is to have empathy, not only for teachers, but for your children. Because like I said, they're experiencing some of the same feelings that you're experiencing right now. The uncertainty, they're getting frustrated. You know, they don't want to sit at the computer all day. They don't want to be in front of the technology. So having some empathy for that and creating these spaces, like Timothy said, those are really important things to navigate those social dynamics.
Right. So even in the middle of while you were, you know, sharing those thoughts, you know, I had a moment where all of a sudden I started seeing circles on my screen and my Wi-Fi was freezing up. And I was like, oh no, not right now. We're live. But it's just like I had to take a deep breath and like, you know, it's all right. Everybody understand. Everybody's been there, right?
Everybody's been there.
You know, taking control of those situations, and you know, it's not the end of the world when it doesn't happen, you know, the way that we expect it. Like, let's lean into that. Let's teach our children and our students how to lean into that. You also mentioned something about the teachers, and also like, let's make sure that we have some grace, some empathy, you know, being sensitive to the experience that the educators are going through. Most educators, if not all, did not go to school to teach during a pandemic. So every day that their work is on display, right? They have people listening to their teaching styles, right? They're teaching in front of a screen like they've never done before. Have some grace there. It's not easy.
It's not. And also, I really want my parents to give yourselves credit for coping and surviving right now. That is the thriving. You're coping and surviving in the middle of all of this chaos. So give yourself credit for that.
Great. And something else that I would like, before I move on, I want you to hit on, Dr. White, because often in communities of color, we don't speak enough about depression, dealing with managing isolation, loneliness, depression. You know, some of the things I think have addressed it, but if you want to say anything else about how people should go about dealing with depression during these times, and that could be for their children or as a parent.
So this is really, really important. And it's one of the heart pieces of mental health. So right now, when you're dealing with isolation, you're dealing with people who feel alone, even when they're around other people, or there may be other people in the house, and you're talking about depression, it's really, really important to not only check in with yourself, but to check in, you know, with your children and ask certain questions. You know, even if it's their younger children, I like to do the 1 to 10, or sometimes I have the stickers, and it's just like, you know, on a scale from 1 to 10, when you're doing your move, walk, talk, you know, how are you feeling today? 1 is, this is a terrible day. 10 is, this is the best day ever. And you kind of can get a, you know, today's a 5, today's a 6, today's a 2. And so you want to explore with them, you know, what is it? Is it, you know, you miss your friends, the homework is hard, those types of discussions. And in your me time, which we talked about, also check in with yourself, because the idea that you need to be productive, you need to hit the mark, you need to keep going in the midst of everything that's going on, check in and really think about, how am I feeling today? If you're seeing changes in your appetite, changes in your sleep, If you're really irritable, which is when people miss a lot, they think it's just I'm frustrated. A lot of times that can be a sign of depression, that irritability. And what's really, really important, and I want you guys to remember, is that suicide, which is something that we do not talk about, is really, really serious. Okay. So in the past few decades, the CDC reported that suicide deaths among those ages 16 to 64 has increased 35%. So it is a real thing. And we're really seeing the numbers going up with our children. We've got to check in. We've got to ask those questions. Don't fear away from it. A lot of times it's a taboo topic, but that is how we can get people help. And I mentioned a couple of resources that I hope that Dell is going to be able to offer to you guys around who you can reach out to. National Suicide Prevention Hotline. We have text hotlines that you can text people to, that can talk with you if you're feeling isolated. But those things are really important to talk about.
Yeah. Foundation, go ahead and run that ticker one more time. Feel free to take a screenshot of that. Maybe save it in your phone, send it to someone who might be in need. We want to make sure everyone who needs this information has it. Christina, we've covered a lot of different topics. Feel free to jump in on any one of them, but one that I definitely want you to mention, because a lot of this is very heavy and very serious. We also have to make sure that our children are finding joy and having fun in all of this. So can you share some of the fun activities that you're doing at home?
Yeah. So what's funny is I definitely have joked in the past and don't try to live up to this, but there's this joke about Pinterest moms, right? So and then there's things like memes about Pinterest fails, because we go on Pinterest and then, according to Pinterest, I like sew and I crochet and I knit. Like, that's my life on Pinterest. I do none of those things in person. As this has started, I've been considering and trying out some of these things. And it's been, so for me, coming from a science background, I'll give you this example. I saw there's this really cute, fun kind of dye experiment that talks about kind of surface tension, right? And so basically you get some milk and you put some dye on it, and then you take a drop of dish soap and you put it in the milk with the dye, and the dye separates. Okay, so when I see this, I'm like, this is so, okay, why is this fun? It seems very simple. It seems, I don't know. I also saw something where there were cookies, and you just take some sugar cookie dough, use some food coloring, you swirl them together in some kind of way and make them look like planets, right? Like red and yellow, orange, and all these different things. And all of these things look so simple, like, this is not going to be fun. My kids need like virtual reality, everything. They need, like, I need to immerse them in the actual ocean for them to care about fish. I need to, like, this is what you think, right? So not true. I think I have learned how to do such simple things with my kids. So my husband did the planet thing. They loved the cookies. They looked amazing. My kids just the other day asked to do the dye experiment again. It feels like they're doing science. And so for us, it's been really, some of those things that you think are simple and they're not fun, they really do kind of light them up in ways that you kind of wouldn't expect. I also have some things like a sticker chart that I use now. And I've said this before, like even high schoolers, when I was taught in high school, I gave them stamps every day. And at first I said, oh my gosh, this is stamps. These kids are 15. They don't want stamps, Keep tearing each other down to get to my desk to get a stamp. Like, I didn't get a stamp, Miss Jackson, I need my stamps, so my kids are the same way. Like, they did their thing and they're waiting on their stickers. And when they get enough stickers, they get whatever we agreed upon prior. So they have a chart, and when they get done, we write on top of the chart, like what they're working toward. And then they get stickers, and then they move on. Another fun thing we did that I think can be done at any time of the year is for the first day of school, we actually, this is a backdrop that you see inside of our playroom that is also set up. And
Wow, wait a minute, wait. You can't just gloss over that. Look at that. She said in the playroom. That is amazing. I want to hang out in the playroom.
and it's set up like this is behind me. It's set up, and then there's some other stuff and things on the wall and desks and whatever. But on their first day of school, I went kind of crazy and more than I thought I would. And I bought all kinds of decorations. I even bought the that I never would buy, the big expensive number balloons. Like those things aren't cheap. And I bought them for all of my kids, even the one that wasn't even going to real school. My husband took them out the house. I brought the balloons in the house. He drove them around the block and we filmed this. And then they got out of the car and we were like, it's the first day of school. And then they walk in and it's like the first day of school. And it was just something different and something fun. And so I think just anything that's different right now. I mean, I think we underestimate some of the little things that I think Dr. White and Dr. Moore were talking about, which is like just seeing kids in the hallway and bumping into somebody or laughing at a joke or telling a joke and having other people laugh with you. Like these little things are things that are missed, and some of them can be helped by equally small things. Like everything doesn't have to be huge. They can still be just tiny things, but different enough to create excitement, variety, and engage them in a different way for that moment.
That's great. That's great. I also want to go back to what you hear. I heard you say stickers, and it's been a long time, I think, for a lot of us, but don't forget about the power of stickers, positive affirmation, right? Every 2 weeks or once a month, however, whatever your frequency is of getting paid, you like to get paid, right? Well, little people, they also like to get paid. You give them a sticker for writing their letters correctly, writing their name, wherever they are on their academic journey, you give them a sticker and you go to the 99-cent store. All this stuff isn't expensive. Go to the 99-cent store, get them some stickers. Boom, I'm so proud of you, buddy. Boom, put the sticker on and you just made their day, right?
Yeah.
Any other panelists want to add on to any fun activities? Tim, what's fun? Yeah, I was about to say, Tim, what's like at the college level?
It looks totally different at the college level, but I just wanted to echo what Christina was saying, particularly around the charts. I don't think people understand how important that is, right? Like that piece of affirmation is like super key and super important. I used to teach high school English as well. And so one of the things that we did with the Kings in our class was when they had a bunch of assignments that they may have been missing in a different class, we allowed them to each have a piece of chart paper, and then they had those assignments. And then once one of them finished an assignment, they would walk up and cross it off. And it kind of created this space of like academic competition, but in a positive way. But it also encouraged a lot more focus and accountability, right? Because they looked at each other like, oh, he just finished 3. Okay, I need to really get back focused, on what I'm doing. And then at the end of it all, right, it was that space and time for us, as folks who really cared about them, to be able to tell them like, wow, you really actually got that done. I'm proud of you, And I think sometimes, again, echoing what everybody has said, I think that's the power of this space and this time with distance learning, is that we don't understand that, some of our students have 30 peers in their class and they don't get that one-to-one affirmation from their teacher. And that might be the reason why they say that they're not good at math or that they can't read well. And so they just never had anybody, sit with them and affirm what they're actually capable of doing. So I just wanted to echo that because that's so important.
I want to just quick little story in terms of sticker charts. So I mentioned my son Carter. He's 6 and he's the one that he just exhibits different behaviors and impulsivity and things like that. So it is not always easy to get him to do the work. We've learned a lot of different strategies. And one of the things that I do for both the boys is that there's a certain number of things they need to do each day, and they get a sticker for each thing every day. And then when their chart is filled, they get to play video games. Only certain video games that they're allowed to play during the week. And I have a lot of reasons for this. So in terms of like, and maybe this a little bit of time management piece, right? So it has helped me really be able to kind of focus on stuff when I need to, and allow them to take ownership, even at 6 years old, of the things that they need to do, because they have the chart. There's only so many words. My 6-year-old has kind of memorized the words. And so they know. So when I have to do something, it's not always pressed upon me, even homeschooling, to outline every single step of the day. That was getting really challenging. And so keeping a schedule they can follow. Well, anyway, my 6-year-old comes to me this morning with his morning work done, and I hadn't even started school yet. And then he had his number of the day was 15. And I looked and he wrote 15. And I said, how did you, because he's 6, he doesn't know that we haven't worked on that word. And he said, for him, when he thinks of things, he says, I guessed in my head. I just guessed in my head, mommy. But he knows the sounds of the letters, and he learned the double E. So he put it all together and he figured out how to spell the word. And then he just started coming to me with all of the stuff he wanted to do. And the motivation was really the sticker chart, because the agreement is, I don't care what time you finish, you just need to finish. Mm-hmm. And so today he wanted to do something else. And so he said, okay, I'm going to get all my work done and I'm going to do it. My 8-year-old, he did not make the same choices. And I don't fight with them. And I say, hey, if you're not doing the work, then don't. They look at me like, what? And I said, don't. You know the consequences. So I'm not going to. You choose what you want to do. And when you're ready, hopefully I'm not on a call and you don't have to wait for me. And we'll do it. And so today he learned he did not get that much time. He had to sit and do a bunch of stuff because he did not make the same choices. But my 6-year-old was highly motivated this morning, wanted to be done, got done, and slapped stickers up on that page so fast all day long. It was incredible.
That's great. That is great. There's so many nuggets, throughout, this conversation. And I know, some of you are writing them down, but I also want you to know that, in case you miss something, 1, you'll be able to watch this again, but 2, sign up for the newsletter. If you sign up for the newsletter, it will include a lot of tips, resources to help you and assist you through distance learning. So you can receive a free resource guide at DaleAnthonyMusic.com/FOLF by signing up for the foundation. So sign up for the newsletter, the mailing list, so you know what other events will be coming up, how you can help, how you can participate, and you can get those resources. One thing, we've talked about parents, we've talked about our children. I also want to talk about the relationship between parent and the teachers, right? And anyone can start with this piece, but what does that relationship look like now that parents are much more involved? I don't want to say much more involved, but involved differently than parents have been involved historically. What are tips for success on how to have a healthy relationship with our children's teachers?
I'll jump in. For me, it depends on the age. If they're younger, then of course you're going to have to do most of the communicating with the teacher. And I would do that, whenever you need help, whenever you don't understand something, whenever something is overwhelming, like if you're getting too much work for your child and they're staying up too late, working all day. So anytime you feel like something needs to be adjusted or you need some support, then I would definitely reach out to, the teachers. As a kid gets into middle school, high school, for sure, you should be teaching your child how to self-advocate, how to advocate for themselves. So, don't jump in when your child didn't complete their assignment on time. The child needs to communicate with the teacher and let them know why and see if there's anything that they can do to make it up. But you want to teach them the skills so that as they get into, higher ed, we have FERPA, you can't talk to the teachers. As a parent, the child has to be able to talk to their professors and communicate. And so I think you should be teaching them the skills, even in middle school, 5th, 6th grade. If they run into a problem, help them problem solve. They'll need some guidance because it's not a natural thing for them to do. They're used to you speaking up for them. But, even if you're sitting there with them and helping them structure the email, at the beginning, but eventually, high school age, they should be the one communicating, unless it gets to a certain point. If there's a bigger issue at hand and you need to step in, then by all means, you have to advocate for your child when necessary. But yeah, I think the communication should definitely happen. And teachers, I'm a teacher. We are happy to hear from parents when necessary. At the high school level, I usually, answer the question and then tell them, please encourage your child to come see me, in the future, or to finish resolving whatever the issue is. Letting the parent know that, yes, I'm here. I'm going to listen to you. Of course, I'm going to support you. We're a team, but also that your child should also be communicating. That's my expectation as a high schooler. They should be able to communicate with me.
I just wanted to jump in real quick. Now I think this can kind of speak to where I'm at in higher ed. I think that's one of the, I can just tell you, I think on a day-to-day basis, 60% of the work that I do is helping students figure out how to advocate for themselves. Traditionally, within the Black community, a lot of times we tell kids to stay in a child's place, and we handle things as adults, and then the children aren't privy to what questions to ask and what information they need to be getting from the teacher. And then they're put in a position, much like what Dr. Moore was saying, where they're college students now, and they have to figure out how to navigate the process. And so opposed to going and asking the questions, they decide not to. And a lot of them end up with these large bills. They have to drop courses and end up staying at the university for 5 or 6 years because they don't know how to have conversations with faculty and department chairs and things of that nature to get the things that they need. And so I can't stress enough what she said. That was definitely a key point. And so I'm just thinking now, maybe this might be a good way to kind of help give them some of that agency to be able to kind of navigate that on situations and conversations where that you're going to be talking to the teacher and it's not going to be about anything that the child shouldn't be in the room for. Allow them to be in the room in the space and see what questions you're asking, so that way they can start to build a database for themselves about what questions should I be asking my teacher. And that'll kind of, again, start to build up their confidence. You might even want to, model the process where you give them a list of questions that they should ask the teacher and you stand behind them and support them, right? But just using kind of a way, again, much like what Dr. Moore was saying, a way for them to really start to be able to advocate for themselves, because that's key and important.
Thank you. That's, real important. Also, our children need to see us, model being involved in schools. Very often we're always telling our children, get involved, participate. But they don't never see mama or daddy participate, right? So now, since we've shifted and a lot of things are now virtual, schools are offering a lot more parent programming online. So participate in the Parents Association meeting, the PTA, if they're doing affinity groups or special cohort groups, have a presence so the school also knows who's involved, right? Don't feel like you're bothering a teacher. If you have questions, send the teacher an email, make a phone call, check in, it's a partnership. And when the camera goes off, there are things that teachers would normally observe about your child that they're not having the opportunity to see now because of distance learning. So you have to help them fill in some of those gaps and things that they might be missing. And like what's already been said about the importance of giving your child agency, encouraging them to, reach out to their teachers directly. In our household, we definitely do that because we tapped out a long time ago on the math. I wish we had a Dr. Moore here, but that math, they do that new math now. So, we don't want to send, you see some of those memes on the internet where the child got all the answers wrong by, wait, my daddy helped me with this. So we don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
But, just own it. Like when you get to the point where you don't understand it, be like, what, I'm gonna help you craft this email to let your teacher know that we don't understand this math, right? But that's super important. And something else I want to add is the importance of exploring all of your school options. Every school is not set up to serve your child. So it's extremely important that you do your research to understand the type of learning environment you're putting your child into. It's not like back in the day where we just went to the school that was, convenient to our address. That's what we did in my neighborhood. That school's down the street. My mama went to that school. It was good enough for her. It's good enough for you, right? But now there's a lot of choice out there, and other communities have been doing this for years. So I spend a lot of time in my work making sure that I do outreach and let folks from underserved communities know that, hey, there's opportunities to attend, a wide variety of schools. Don't let the price tag of a school scare you away, because all of these schools have very robust financial aid programs. So do your research. You might find that the school you're in is the right fit. Perfect. But also make sure you're exploring and know what else is out there. And, again, with us being, in this pandemic, everything is virtual. So there's so many opportunities to check things out online where you don't have to physically drive to all these places like we had to do before the pandemic. Dr. White, it's been a while. What's on your mind? What else is percolating there?
No, I'm just listening. I'm taking it all in. I'm taking tips too. I agree with everything that's been said. Great information. I agree. You guys, for me, typically when I work with children, it's for psychological assessment. And so you guys are the eyes and ears. And I think it's beautiful what Dr. Moore said about advocating, because you are the one who is teaching them these skills that they'll need for the rest of their life. And so it's really important to make sure that you're modeling those behaviors. You're teaching them what it means to be assertive, what it means to communicate with people in authority. And then on the flip side, parents, you're the eyes and ears. So when parents come to me and they say, hey, I have concerns, well, I'm not with your child, all the time. You are. So you've got to have that information. You got to have those conversations and be able to bring it to me in order for me to help both of you. So
I also want to take a look at some of the questions that have come in from the chat. So if there's any questions, go ahead and shoot those to us. Remember to utilize the chat feature and we can answer some additional questions. Are there tools for upfront planning that parents can use? Are there tools for upfront planning that parents can use? Apps, programs, templates? What do you find helpful?
Yeah, so for me, I use just a general lesson plan book. Again, my situation is unique. I did start virtual school, and then we have transitioned into private homeschooling. And so I use that to plan my time. I also used it though when we were in virtual school. It was a much more complicated schedule, but mostly any planner will work. So not a caution, but just consider when you go to an app or even a calendar or anything like that. There are so many times where you have to call stuff on the fly that there are apps that you can use, but it might be more efficient to just have a piece of paper and a pencil. Like you're just at your house and you have to move things around and change things. And so apps sometimes don't lend themselves well to those kinds of things and give you the flexibility that you want. In terms of any templates or anything like that I use as a parent, I'm happy to share any of those, all the documents that I use basically with the foundation, and they can send those things out. But honestly, my best friend is good old-fashioned paper and pencil, because I jot everything down and I'm able to kind of see where everything is and move things around.
Yeah, I'd second that, and also take into account your child. So my daughter is super organized. She likes to draw. So she's one that will get a piece of paper and write out a schedule and color code it. So you want them to be involved in the process no matter what their age is. So if they're younger, it could be a poster board and you're helping them, put things in the poster board with pictures or whatever, stickies. If they're older and they like the phone, the notes on the iPhone, my son and I use that to communicate. He sits down on Sunday, he writes, his different courses, and then he makes bulleted list of what his assignments are, and he checks them off as he goes, and that share it with me so I can check in, periodically to see if he's on track. So I think it just depends on the child and your style of how you want to set it up. But paper, posters, notes, whatever works where you can see it and, easily make adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Second question, with school and extracurricular activities now all on Zoom, when should their day end? With school and extracurricular activities now all on Zoom, when should their day end? Some days my son's calls end at 7 p.m.
My first thought is that's quite late. I think that's my first thing. I think Dr. Moore, though, you had the same thought.
Yes, I would say that's too much. Schools typically end 3:30. I wouldn't expect that they're obligated to be on any school calls after, the regular school day. As far as homework, again, it depends on the age and the level of student. But if it's too much, at some point it's too much. When they're in high school, they have things that they can do. But again, it's advocating for your child. We're all in a special time, and you would be surprised, kind of the rules that are broken when certain parents who know how to advocate for their kids speak up and say, this is overwhelming for him, for me, and da 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 da, and what, kind of adjustments are made for that child. So don't be afraid to, if it is overwhelming, not if your child is just not sticking to their schedule and not being productive, but if your child is really overwhelmed and it's just too much, then that's the time you need to reach out and let them know, okay, we need to make some adjustments because this isn't helping him, her, or, us at that point. But anything outside the school day, to me, limited amount of homework. They shouldn't be hours, doing homework, spending hours doing homework after they've been online all day. So kind of the same expectation for when they're in school. Children shouldn't be at school, 6, 7, 8 hours and then come home and have to do homework 3, 4, 5 hours, not younger kids. And older kids, it's a matter of planning. But I would definitely, 7 p.m. is pretty late.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would add would also be to, don't be afraid to check in and look over their shoulder occasionally. Sometime that school call might be a social hour, and although they do need the social hour, you want to monitor, how much that is really going on. Making sure they're not just going in their room, closing the door, and like, oh yeah, I got a whole bunch of calls. I got more calls. Making sure that it is relevant to what's going on. Difference between what's desired and what's actually necessary. Also, you want to have conversations, with your child about, their interests. What are the things that they're passionate about, and those are the things that they should, dive deeper into, and not necessarily things that are just, going to pad a college resume and trying to have a whole laundry list of activities that, to give this perception like, oh, this will really look good for the colleges. No, let's narrow that down. And what are the things that are most important to you? I think that's important.
I was just going to add just really quickly, maybe some of the language you might want to use when having a conversation with your child's teacher is there a way for us to be able to scaffold these assignments, which is the language that's used, which basically means just breaking down the assignments in a way that's palatable or digestible for your student. But they ultimately will meet a particular timeline at the end of the week or 2-week period or whatever the case may be. That might make it a little bit easier in terms of getting assignments done. I think the other thing that's helpful, I don't know if anybody's mentioned it, but I think, even with just having meetings with the teacher or just talking to your student in general, asking what things worked in class and seeing how you can use those things and how they might translate at home. Because your student might tell you, well, Miss G used to do this with me and it worked really well. And I like when she did that and it helped me learn. So just even asking them what worked well for them and how they like to, take care of their assignments and tackle their assignments.
I agree. I would add just making sure that there are boundaries in place. So it's really important for your own emotional health, mental health, physical health to have those boundaries. And so just making sure, like everyone is saying, that you're asking the right questions, asserting yourself, making sure that some of the things are these requirements, are they really necessary? Do we need to reframe the boundaries because we're crossing over a boundary now, it's getting to be too much? It's really, really important for your health and your child's health.
Right.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I think that there are questions. I think that a teacher, a student, and a parent can ask, they maybe don't, in terms of just requirements for certain assignments, and what that really means, and again, what must happen and what could happen. So most teachers, all of us that have been in the classroom, we've had assignments, and we give them to students, and we have them set such that our average student, that we feel that the class can do it. We all know that every kid is different, and it is not unreasonable for a student to come to us and ask for some type of change or tweak to the assignment that we've given. It's not in stone. It's something that we feel would work best for your child. And there are a lot of educators out there that our goal is to help our kids. And so if our student comes to us, or a parent comes to us and says, hey, this would be done, help me if I did it this way, or if I could try this. In certain spaces, that's allowed. And so, for example, my son, he did not want to be on camera and make Flipgrid videos. And his teacher wanted him to do a summary of a book, but do it as a Flipgrid video. Now, I'm versed in standards and things like that. And so I had somewhat of an idea that the Flipgrid part was not part of the actual assessment. So the assessment is tied to whatever standard the student needs to cover. So being able to summarize text. And so in that space, my son is in 3rd grade. And so I said, hey, can he just write down the summary? Yes, because it still gets to the same place without causing the extra stress and anxiety for my child to deliver a product in a way that they're not comfortable. And that is a fair thing to ask. It's a fair thing to say, because in my house, when tears start, homework stops. And we've done that always, because I don't ever want my children to have a negative learning experience. Because it begins to condition them in a different way to not want to continue to learn. And so I think in terms of advocating for your child, it is fair, it's reasonable, it should not be frowned upon for you to ask a question and say, hey, can we try this instead of this? And really problem solve, because it helps your teacher, your child's teacher, really get to understand your child better, and really understand the class better. It's all data gathering. So if I have a bunch of parents that come to me and say this isn't working, then I need to know so that I don't do it again. So advocacy for your child is important, and do it. It's not a bad thing.
Great. All right, so we have one final question, and then we're going to wrap up. I know a few of our panelists are on different time zones. Dr. White has another call that she needs to jump on. So if you need to go, Dr. White, you can go ahead and do so. The last final question. I have a kid that attends middle school out of state, but currently lives in California because of the pandemic. His day begins at 5 a.m. and it has been difficult keeping him engaged. His grades slip, and I need help with setting a structure and expectations to get him back on track.
So he lives in California, but his school is on East Coast time.
Yeah,
is what
it's
I'm
like out of state, so
understanding.
maybe a boarding school, and he's at home maybe.
Okay. That's hard. You have to just readjust. I mean, it's like if we took on a job where our hours change and we have to wake up really early, we got to go to bed early. And that's hard for a kid when, his environment, the rest of the kids that he may be interfacing with online or whatever are up. So it's a sacrifice on the child's part, because they have to kind of be on a different schedule than everybody else. But it's necessary for his well-being and his success. So I think, you just got to readjust that schedule and shift everything up so that he's waking up earlier, which means he's going to bed earlier. The day just has to shift up. That's the only thing I can see to make it work. As far as like expectations and motivating him, that's a whole different ballgame. What motivates your child? Like, what things can you incorporate in the day that can help him, get excited about learning? And so that's a part of knowing your child and understanding and having those conversations that the panelists have talked about. So figuring out ways to incorporate kind of some things that may be exciting to him, or, you know, something that can get him kind of into it again. But definitely have to readjust his schedule. He gets up really early, he has to go to bed early.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think too that it's important to, and it's not going to be possible in everyone's situation. Like, I think it's a good time to mention, you know, my kids were doing virtual learning, and then now we're homeschooling. So it's possible that this plan is not working for you, and it might not work, right? So we can try a bunch of different things, and it might be that making some type of change will be necessary, and it's scary. I pulled my kids out, and there's a lot of things to think about before you do that. So for us, we had kind of decided to pull. We were thinking about it both pre-pandemic, and so when we got to this point, we went ahead and did it. But I think that there's room, no matter what situation you're in, kind of like was mentioned earlier, all of these different schools, there are different options now and it's fair, and it's good, and it's reasonable, and it is fine to start to reevaluate what you're doing and what choices you're making for your children. And if a big change, like changing schools, whether it's a different school, whether it's homeschool, whatever the case may be, that might just be the best idea. And it's okay to make that decision. Additionally, it's okay to make that decision and then put them back in their school the next school year. Like, nothing, it's just okay. Like, nobody knows this. Like, we're all flying by the seat of our pants, and so we're just doing the best that we can with the information that we have at the time, and that's it. So if it requires a change, then it does. And so I don't know the situation for the school, but I think it would be fair, right? Like, if we can't get the other things under control, it might be better to reevaluate rather than to have this child continue to fail or to be unsuccessful academically, for the sake of continuing in a situation that just might not be a good one right now. So
Right.
Yeah, I know he was going to say I know we have to wrap up too. I just wanted to add, you know, I think I'm not necessarily clear either on what the school structure is, but I think oftentimes when we hear the words IEP, people think that's just specific to special ed, and that's not always the case, right? So certain schools are allowed to give students IEPs, which are individual education plans for their students to be able to be successful. So in this particular situation, because of the pandemic, you might be able to ask for an IEP in which your student has adjusted class hours to be able to facilitate and get the work done that they need to be able to get done. So I think, again, just looping back to the advocacy piece, asking the right and appropriate questions for your student to see what could potentially be done, but don't just accept that 7 o'clock is when they start. So that's when your child has to start. You have to be bold enough and brave enough to ask questions on your child's behalf as well.
And I know we have to wrap up. Last thing, if you don't know the questions to ask a friend who might know those questions to ask, and we'll tell you. If any parent ever asked me something, like as a former high school teacher, and wanted to know, I would gladly walk you through the appropriate questions and the conversations and the things to reference and all of that stuff. So like, if you don't know, you do not have to go into these conversations blind. There are so many people out there that will gladly say, hey, these are the words. Like, scaffold, use that word, use this word. So like, if you don't know, for sure, reach out to your circle or Facebook or anywhere and me and ask the questions, because so many people are happy to help.
Right. Utilize the village. And the Faith Out Loud Foundation is establishing and expanding the village. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter. And once you sign up for the newsletter, they're going to send a whole list of free resources. You do not have to walk this journey alone. And because we know that villages are important, just, shout out to all the uncles, aunts, grandmas, grandpas, mentors, coaches, everyone who's pitching in to help out, during this time. Special shout out to my mom, Granny, who's helping us out, because we'd have lost our minds a long time ago if it wasn't for her. Right. So we're all in this together. Also, just want to make sure that if you'd like to donate to the foundation. You know, the foundation is doing great work. Earlier, for those of you who got on late, we showed a video of what's been happening with Faith Out Loud Fridays, Faith Out Loud Music. In 2020 also was established Faith Out Loud Apparel. So Faith Out Loud is not just a movement, it's just not a saying, it is a way of life. And now the Faith Out Loud Foundation. So a lot of exciting things happening. If you want to partner with Faith Out Loud Foundation, you can give, you can donate at DaleAnthonyMusic.com/FOLF, or you can use Cash App, and you can use $FOL Foundation, $FOL Foundation. All right. You know, because we want to make sure that Faith Out Loud Foundation knows that they don't have to do this work alone, that there's a lot of people who want to partner with them and sow into good ground. And this is some really good ground to sow into. So special shout out to Dale Anthony, to Desiree Ingram for your leadership and vision, and y'all making it happen. Panelists, any final remarks?
This was amazing. This was awesome. I learned a lot. I'm encouraged. I'm inspired. I'm energized, I think, by all of these conversations, and just so honored and humbled to be a part of it in this way. So thank you guys so much. It was awesome.
Yes, thank you for letting us be a part. And one thing that I read that kind of stood out when I was kind of putting together some resources for the audience is there is no map for this journey. There's no map. So be flexible, have patience with yourself, and lead with love.
I was just going to echo, you know, utilize and leverage the community. If there's any way that I can help or be of assistance, please feel free to reach out. Yeah, but I'm excited, just like everyone else, just to be a part of this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Great. Thank you for being on the panel and, you know, volunteering your time. We really appreciate it. Definitely means a lot. A lot of nuggets, a lot of wisdom was shared. That's really going to make a difference in the day-to-day experience of parents, educators, and students. Thank you to the foundation and to the board members for all the work that you're doing behind the scenes to make the Faith Out Loud Foundation go from a vision to a reality. Again, sign up for the newsletter. Please donate if you can. Thank you to all the viewers who hung in there with us. Please share this information, reshare on your pages, tell a friend, somebody who needs this information, missed out on it, but let's make sure it gets into the right hands. God bless you. Good night. Thank you for allowing me to be your moderator, and we can't wait to see you at the next event. Continue to live your faith out loud. Peace.